Well, hello. We're back at Double Eagle Airport here in New Mexico. It's been a couple of weeks since I was last here. Life gets in the way. And today I was going to go over some more stuff on the Mooney. Actually, I was going to get into the engine because the Mooney M22 Mustang is unique in its own right, but the engine is also has the merit of being extremely unique, which is a good thing and also a bad thing. So we'll get into that, but as you can see, I have the cowling off. Why would I have the cowling off? Well, as you can see, the cowling is standing over here. Normally you wouldn't take it off, you would just open it up on one side because there's a piano hinge here. Well, the reason I had to remove it is because we thought we were going to have to dismantle this starter, and we may still have to do that because the starter wasn't engaging, and I think it was intermittent. So today I'm going to try and start the engine and maybe give you guys a little bit of a show so you can get to hear it. But we'll leave the cowling off for that purpose, and I'll pull it out of the hangar and we'll get into it. And we'll chuck it. We'll put the chucks on the main wheel away from the propeller. This is slow and laborious when you're not towing, but this is the perfect speed for maneuvering the airplane. There's no neutral position, unfortunately. This is the tow bar that came with the airplane, and as you can see, I basically adapted it with a chassis here where I can just slot it on to my existing electric tow bar, and seems to be working pretty well. I'm pretty happy with that. I didn't have to build a new tow bar for it. You can see here the cowling on the ground. It's a pretty spacious cowling. There's a lot of space to access the engine. I really like that, which is paradoxical because the Moonies, today's Moonies, are known for not having much room to work on underneath the cowling. So this is pretty unique. All right, back to the airplane. All right, so what I want to do is just go through the startup procedure, which involves priming the engine with the fuel boost pumps down here, which I'll be activating, and then I'll be doing all of this in sequence, reading the manual, of course. The starter is here, keys safely over here on the dashboard, and hopefully we get this baby started. So as you can see here, this door is staying in place because of this little latch, which I pull down, and then I'm able, to close the door. That was a bit violent. I wasn't expecting that. So I'm pulling out the manual. We're just going to go through the starting procedure. Here's my checklist. Well, we're not flying it today, so I don't need to do a full pre-flight. Overhead console switches all off. As you can see, this is where the console switches are. So they are all off presently. Radios are all off, and avionics master is off. Gear lever is down. Cabin air selector to ram air. And as you can see, that is the case here. Engine air induction, filtered air. We'll talk about that, but that's this here. Throttle open 1/4 inch. So let's go back to the throttle. And you can see the knobs originally were not colored, and somebody took a marker and colored them. But the throttle, we want 1/4 inch, which is about that. And these are vernier, all three of them, presumably. Yeah, all three of them. That's cool. And then what we want the propeller on high, which it is. Main circuit breaker check, and that's over here underneath this panel, and we will check them all. Yes, they are. They're all checked. And some spare fuses there. Put that back on. And it has all kinds of useful information as well. The labeling from the factory was pretty cool. And we have takeoff and landing. Not sure how readable that is in in a pinch. But anyway, it's there if you need it. All right, back to the checklist. So we did the propeller, high RPM, main circuit breaker check, cowl flaps open. And now for the cowl flaps. And this is the cowl flaps, which I confused with the brakes. So pull open, but right now there's no point because the cowling's not on. So whatever I did to this would not have any effect. Battery switch we want on. So we go up here to the panel and we click on the battery switch. So I can hear it start to activate. Let's see how many volts there are. 12.4, so we're good. Somebody installed this, which is a good idea. So battery switch, mixture idle cutoff, okay. Altitude boost pump on. So down here we have emergency pump and altitude pump. So we turn it on. All right. Fuel selector set for either tank. And then we want to see 10 psi on the fuel pressure here. Yeah. But the last time I would flood it, so I'm going to do that this time around and see if that works. So I'm back to 1/4 inch. Mixture is out, so cut off. Starting ignition, engage, and mixture open slowly until engine starts, then full rich. Okay, let's do that. You can see my hand reaching for the engage. Let's do our proverbial clear prop. All right, and I'm ready with the mixture. Oh, well, it started. So the starter did work, but I did hear it click. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. So let's try that again. Fuel pump on. Just 1 second. We don't need more than that. And let's give it another go. Clear prop. Oh, now it's clicking. So that starter is intermittent. Okay. Let's wait a second. I've got plenty of juice. I've got plenty of voltage. So I almost got it started, but the starter was weak. And now it's not engaging. The pin that hits the flywheel is not coming out. And that's kind of what we identified last time. All right, I think we lost one of the cameras. It just fell on the ground. We have 1300 RPM climbing. No, we have 1000 RPM, so we're good. I'm gonna lean it a little bit. My engine instruments are intermittent. And I'm gonna grab behind here. There's some wires. Not sure. There's some gremlins going on, that's for sure. So the fuel pressure works, the amps work, and we're going to turn on the alternator now, so we don't drain the battery too much. We've got good amps, voltage, oil temperature. I don't expect that to come up too soon. But the oil pressure is not working. Fuel pressure is working. And the boost pump is not on, so that fuel pressure is working just based off the engine, which is pretty cool. But oil pressure, we do know. Let's raise the door here. There is an oil pressure gauge here. I think that's fine. All right, it's been noisy out there. We'll lower the door, but we'll do it gently this time. There we go. Now oil pressure. Is it any of the wires behind here? All right, well, let's cut off the engine because I'm not getting the oil pressure and I'm worried. So the oil pressure, couldn't get it to work. So for such a powerful engine with 6 cylinders, this is what they came up with back in the day. They had a very basic, I guess, standard engine monitor setup. Whereas nowadays, I mean, there's some really advanced stuff where you can monitor each cylinder precisely, exhaust temperature, you know, all that good stuff. If you look at here, we just have one main cylinder head temperature, which I'm presuming just indicates the hottest cylinder. And then do we have exhaust temperature somewhere? And then exhaust temperature is here, which is in the most inconvenient place because there's no way. Oh, I guess you do see it when you're handling the controls. So if you're looking down to your knobs, that kind of is in your line of sight, but still weird. I'd rather have engine instruments clearly on the panel, like they are here. So we could upgrade this and put all the engine instruments here. That would be a cool feature, I think, and figure out why it's not working. Is it the panel here? Does this need to be replaced? Or is it something to do with a sensor? But I don't think it's a sensor because I think this has worked intermittently before, but we shall see. So this engine, the TSIO-541, had a few relatives. It powered the Beech Duke in its early days and also the Cessna 421 in its early days before they moved to the geared engine. But none ever used it in a single engine powered airplane until Mooney decided to do it with the Mooney Mustang. And this is what makes it unique, is that the Mooney Mustang is the only single engine piston airplane to ever be certified with a TSIO-541-A1A. Most turbo twins of the era used one turbo per side. Mooney went simpler and riskier actually, and with one giant unit, this Garrett turbo. The benefits were that it would save weight, of course, but it also created a bit of a heat management problem inside the cowling. But that's a different story. And then here you can see the part of the pressurization system here. So we've gone over the engine a little bit. There's some interesting stuff that I found out about the design from my guest today, Ken Harmon.
This thing was designed to have a combustion heater in here, and we were trying to get that heater to work, and it's a terrible job to work on that heater down in there. It's buried,
right?
And so we came up with a new system, and that's what these heat shields are on the exhaust. Air flows through here and gets heated up, and then at some point the air goes down and there's a heat exchanger down here, and you use that hot air to go through that heat exchanger and heat the cabin air, and got rid of the combustion heater and all the problems. So,
and then you're circulating it in to heat the cabin. That's pretty cool.
Well, it goes down here and goes through the heat exchanger.
Right.
The turbocharged air naturally is hot.
Now, I don't know if you can see, but can anyone tell me where the Can anybody spot the engine mount? You tell me if you can spot the engine mount. Well, no, there isn't one. It was a trick question. Well, it is mounted on the airplane, but there is no engine mount tubular frame like you're accustomed to seeing on many airplanes. It literally is sitting on top of the airframe. And you can see it here. You can see this very sturdy aluminum cross channel. And then here you can see the mount, and here you can see the rubbers. 4 bolts, and you've taken the engine off? Is that right? That would be amazing. Here's another one, but it's hidden behind the exhaust. Well, obviously, that has pros and cons. One is you have to build a structural piece of the front end of the airplane. But they had plenty of room to do that based on the size of the Mustang. It's such a beast in size. And it reminds me of another airplane, one that I've owned and that I had a bit of drama with because something happened, and you'll have to watch the video up in the top right-hand corner. I screwed up, and well, something bad happened. But what I was going to say is that that airplane, the Questair Venture, which is an experimental, had the exact same design. It has the engine that literally sits on top of the engine. I'm not sure there are many aircraft with such shallow oil pans, or engines with such shallow oil pans. You see here? It's a very shallow oil pan, oil sump. I don't know if it wasn't specifically designed for this airplane, but they obviously built the airframe around it, and then so that allows also for this space for the ram air to come in through this area, which is only used at altitude. You wouldn't use it near the ground. So one thing that's inconvenient on this airplane is apparently that if you want to change the belt on this, which has been changed recently, is you have to take the propeller off, which is a little bit of a bummer. And so what's up next is I need to fix the engine instrument, get a replacement to see if that will resolve the problem of the oil pressure. So stay tuned for that, and if you like this video, click and subscribe.